Hi, I'm Leezá Steinorf. I'm an international leadership coach, a member of the Forbes Coaches Council, and I've helped thousands of leaders and learners around the world find ease and unlock power that they didn't even know they had. And today we're exploring one of those misunderstood skills in human development, a skill that sounds soft, but is actually the backbone of emotional power, non-judgment. And if you've ever caught yourself snapping at someone you love or spiraling into assumptions or feeling hijacked by your own reaction, this episode is for you. Okay, so imagine this, right? You're driving, everything's fine, and then someone cuts you off in traffic, and instantly your brain screams, "Idiot!" But your body, your whole nervous system, it goes straight into DEFCON 2, right? Or your partner forgets something important, and suddenly you're thinking, they don't care. They never care. Or someone raises an eyebrow even, and your inner critic leaps like Jack out of the box. See, you're failing. They think you're ridiculous, right? These judgments are so fast. They're like lightning fast into our reality. And it feels like clarity when we judge something, but actually it's a trap door. So if you can learn to interrupt judgment, your entire emotional life changes. Your reactivity drops, your peace expands, your self-worth stabilizes, and your whole communication becomes so much more powerful, like exponentially. Because when you stop judging, when you can turn that around and interrupt that pattern, puts you in the driver's seat. You are the commander of your own experience in your life. All right, let's jump in. So we're going to start with clarity and why judgment hijacks you. So you only have one brain, but you have two internal narrators. And your job is to figure out who's who. Which are you being at any one time? You have the observer. Observer's calm. It observes the facts. It's grounded, perceptive. And then you have the judge. It's reactive. It's self-righteous, absolute, dramatic, and super fast. Most importantly, it's incredibly inaccurate. Okay, so the observer might say, he didn't text back. The judge would say, he doesn't respect you. The observer would say, she raised her voice. The judge says, she's attacking you. The observer would notice that you made a mistake, and the judge would say, you are a mistake, right? So here's the truth of it. Judgment collapses reality into your worst fear, and non-judgment expands reality back into possibility. It's incredible. I have a whole program called The Genius of Non-Judgment. This is foundational, and it has absolutely changed every moment of my life. That's why I'm sharing it with you. And that shift from the implosion of judgment to the expansion of non-judgment, that's the difference between living in panic or living in power. So judgment is actually a survival mechanism. It's not a fact mechanism, right? We came to judge things. Is this good for me? Or is this bad for me? It evolved in order for us to make split-second decisions in the forest, right? Stick is safe. Snake, run, right? It's like that fast. But modern life, we're not in the forest for the most part, right? Emails aren't snakes. Your partner isn't a tiger. Your coworker isn't the bear in the forest. But your nervous system treats them like that, right? It goes into the reptilian, the back brain in order to protect you, fight, flight, or freeze. So judgment is actually an outdated operating system, and it's running your relationships. It's making your choices. It's creating your reactions, and it's actually building your sense of self. And you can upgrade that. You can change that. That's what we're going to do here. All right, let's talk about ownership. This is your part, okay? And we're not talking about blame. It's not judging yourself. It's not making yourself wrong. It's actually putting yourself back into the driver's seat of your own experience. And your part is simple. You're the gatekeeper of your own meaning. You are the one that decides what thoughts and feelings come in. Is it judgment that I'm going to allow in, or I'm going to keep that out and I'm going to stick with observation and choice? So let's look at how you can calmly reclaim that agency. All right, we're going to look at a couple of shifts. Ownership, number one. Notice your snap words. We all have them, all right? And everybody's got their own collection. These are those instant judgments that leap out of your mind. Idiot, selfish, rude, always, never, how dare they? Who do you think you are? Disrespect, right? These are these gunshot words that just shoot out and they're based in judgment. They're not observations, they're conclusions. And they shut down your intelligence. What that means is when we're judging, we leave our frontal lobe and we go into our back brain. It's like, this is bad for me. I'm going to defend. You're not okay. We literally don't have access to our thinking mind, to the rationale. So those snap judgments, it's actually shutting you off from your ability to be prudent and to take good action for yourself. All right, ownership shift two. A judgment about others is always a judgment about yourself. Now, this can be very challenging to accept or to sit with, right? But if you think about it, it's actually incredibly liberating and also self-informative, because if I know when I'm judging someone else, it's actually a reflection of a judgment I have about myself, I can see that more clearly. It's often hard to see the judgments we hold about ourselves, but we can sure see the ones we hold about others, right? So if you think someone else is really stupid, most likely you carry some sort of fear of inadequacy or conviction of inadequacy. If you feel like someone else is disrespecting you, you probably have some wound around your self-worth. Um, if you feel like someone else is being selfish, you may feel like you don't matter or you don't deserve to take care of yourself, right? So whatever the exact judgment is that's being reflected, that judgment is a mirror back to yourself. It's not a window into the other person. All right, let's look at ownership shift three. You cannot be present and judge at the same time. It doesn't work because judgment actually lives in the past, right? It's based on assumptions and conclusions that we have made to take care of ourselves, to live by, that have guided us up to this point, but maybe don't serve us anymore, right? And non-judgment is right here in the present. It's looking at the facts, it's being the observer of a situation and being clear and factual about what we're experiencing. So presence is where power is, and judgment is where we react, right? It's a knee jerk. So when we can be present and we can be in our presence, we have the strength to respond, to take a moment and respond. And when we're being judgmental, we're pulling from the past and we're reacting quickly and often without thinking. So your job is to choose your location. Are you in the past reacting, or are you in the present responding? All right, so let's talk about resolution, how to practice non-judgment without turning into a doormat. It's how we put this into action, right? And resolution, the way I describe it, is to bring into alignment actions, thoughts, things in our lives that are not aligned, things that are not working with our value system, and then bringing this into alignment. So non-judgment is not about being passive. It's not about agreeing with bad behavior, or pretending that things are fine when they don't feel that way. And it's not about letting people walk all over you. Okay? So when you're not putting a spin on the facts, it actually puts you in command of responding in a way that works well for you and considers other people. It's not reactive, as I said earlier. So non-judgment is seeing clearly so you can respond powerfully. And I'm going to give you 5 tools that will help you turn judgment, honestly, into absolute ease. As I said, I've had to work through all this, right? I grew up very judgmental. Everything was black or white. Usually our family was right and everybody else was wrong. And that just didn't make sense to me. And especially when I moved overseas and I saw how different the world is from what I had grown up in, I couldn't judge everything as wrong because it was different. So I really had to take this apart and figure it out. So what I'm sharing with you here are absolutely tools that have helped me find such ease and peace in the world, honestly. So, number one, replace judgment with description. Okay? Instead of labeling behavior, describe what happened, right? Instead of they were rude, that's a label, you can say they spoke loudly and they interrupted me, right? So you're describing what happened. Instead of saying she's dramatic, conclusion, she expressed her emotions intensely. What did she do? What happened? And instead of saying I'm a failure, you can say I didn't reach my goal today, right? And so in each one of those, when you describe what happened, it takes the sting out of the judgment, but it also is a lot more factual. And when you're factual, you can then do something about it, right? If I say I didn't reach my goal today instead of I'm a failure. Great. Where do you go from there? Other than feeling horrible about yourself. I didn't reach my goal today, then I can look at why didn't I reach it? What could I do differently? Is that the right goal for me, right? There's a whole lot of traction points that you can connect to there. So, description brings clarity, judgment brings distortion. And what we want is clarity. That allows us to move forward. All right. Number two, add the question, what else could be so? This cracks open that filter, right? So if somebody's behaving in a certain way and you don't understand it or you're tempted to judge them for that, you can just think, maybe they're stressed or they're hungry or maybe they feel overwhelmed or maybe they're scared or they're running on empty and maybe they weren't even thinking at all. Maybe they just had a knee-jerk reaction, right? So my kids were young. I used to practice this with them and actually I think it's helped them a lot, but at the time they thought I was nuts. If we saw something that didn't make sense, a parent yelling at their child, somebody stealing something when we were traveled a lot, I'd always ask, what do you think is going on for them? And then they would say, maybe they're sad. Maybe they lost something. Maybe they don't have enough to eat. Maybe they just got bad news, right? So just considering other alternatives, that cracks open that filter and it interrupts that pattern of judgment. All right. Number three, separate fact from feeling. Okay. And literally say the sentence. The fact is this, the feeling is this. The fact is he didn't respond. The feeling is I'm afraid I've lost him, or I'm afraid they're gone. Okay? So the separation, just the separation of it, really dissolves like 70% of that emotional reactivity. It just calms things down. So the fact is this, the feeling is this. The feeling is valid, there's nothing wrong with your feelings, but being able to and unentangle that, right? Distangle that. What's the word I'm thinking of, right? Is helpful. The fact is this, the feeling is this. All right. Number four is slow down your internal narrator. Just slow it down. So before reacting, say to yourself, pause, observe, proceed. Pop, pause, observe, proceed. It slows down the judge and it gives that observer the time and the space to step in. What am I seeing here? What am I feeling? What do I want? And then to take action. All right. And five, ask instead of assume, right? We are so quick to not only assume, but to conclude what we've assumed is so, especially when it's about other people, right? So if it matters to you, ask. Say, hey, I just want to check on something. Is everything okay between us? Or, hey, I'm curious. This doesn't make sense to me. Would you mind sharing what you are doing here or why it is this way? Right? So having that curiosity, stepping into the not knowing, incredibly useful. So non-judgment opens the door. It expands into possibility. And judgment and assumption slams it, it contracts. And so when you step into that possibility and you open up and give others a chance and yourself a chance to understand, to be curious, a whole lot of things can happen. And that's also a good thing. All right, let's talk about excellence. And excellence is not a perfectly polished way of being. It's who you are and who you can be without judgment. So when you anchor in non-judgment, when you practice this as a way of being, It allows you to listen instead of react. And you can respond then instead of exploding, right? I used to be very explosive, and now I really have the time. I listen, I think. You can change. I trust me. If I could change, anybody could change, honestly. So, and when you're not judgmental, you can also hold your own value. You don't have to prove it. You don't have to get approval. And you can stay centered even when other people aren't. And that's a big one, right? So when people are spinning off and things are getting tense, when you can go to that observation place, pop, observe, proceed, right? It gives you space to respond differently. So you can have conversations instead of confronting people, and you can see people without distorting them by judgment. So when you are able to practice non-judgment, you actually get to choose your meaning instead of being ruled by some conclusion that came in a snap. Yeah? You begin operating from your ground instead of your historical wounds. And that is emotional mastery. It's what I call actually mental hygiene. It's keeping a clear and clean internal space for yourself, spiritually, emotionally, and you can lead from there. And that not only in business, but just in life in general. And that's freedom. That's exactly what the world needs more of. It needs you, all of you, clear and present. And especially right now, we need you that way. Okay, so here's a practice that you can try just for the next 48 hours, 2 days. Anytime that you judge someone or something, including yourself, take a moment, pop, right? Pause, observe, and proceed, and switch to describing instead, right? Instead of that label, what an idiot. Oh, he just moved from 2 lanes over directly into my lane and hit his brakes. Like literally. Just even saying that, even if you go to judgment next, just saying that will break the pattern and you'll start to retrain your neurology. That one micro shift can literally change everything. All right. If this spoke to you, go ahead and like the video, subscribe. You can have more then. And if you want to learn how to shift from judgment to clarity and communicate without fear and stay grounded even when things get messy, reach out to me at the link below. Being centered is not something you have to earn. It's who you are, and you get to rediscover that, uncover it. And I'd be honored to walk with you that way. Take care, be well.